Okay. So for the series parallel and parallel series circuits, actually, if you're going to ask me, all of those are just the same. Okay. Again, to make this simple, if there is a parallel connection, that is already considered as a parallel circuit. Okay. So again, series parallel is just to emphasize that, the first word is emphasizing that there is more series connection than a parallel connection, and vice versa. So in here we have more parallel connection than a series connection. But anyway, in other words, those two is equal to a parallel circuit. Okay. Okay, so nandiyan na ba kayo? Let me just confirm whether you guys are already in front of your screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, so in here, of course, circuits combining series and parallel sections with one source of supply are treated in much the same way, okay, as simple circuit arrangements, like, again, a series parallel or parallel series circuits. Then again, to make it simple, tatawagin na lang natin siyang parallel circuit. Okay? Kahit ano pa man yung ibang connection na meron siya. As long as meron ng parallel connection, parallel na kagad siya. Okay? Or, yung ibang tawag nila doon, which is, hindi na siya normal, ang tawag natin sa ganito, series parallel, is combinational. Okay? Pero, madalang kasi siyang gamitin. Pero sometimes, ang tawag natin doon is combinational circuit, wherein it is a combination of series and parallel circuit. Okay, so in most series parallel or parallel series circuits, it is generally convenient to consider each series or parallel section as an independent unit, okay, using the rules given in the foregoing articles for each one. So for example, okay, pag sinabi nating let's say independent unit, okay, like for example this one, you can consider this one as one unit, okay, or one section, wherein this is parallel, right? So from here, you can solve this one separately by applying the parallel formula. Okay? The same with this one, meron tayong series, so you can apply the series formula. And then another section is again parallel, so you can apply here the parallel formula. And then just add those three and then you'll be able to get the total resistance. Okay? So, hindi yung, let's say, consider nyo tong tatlong section na to as one unit. So, in that case, I guess, mas mahirap yon. Pero pwede rin naman. Actually, ganun din naman yung patutunguhan. Pero mas madali kasing intindihin kapag ito muna yung solve mo, tapos ito muna, tapos ito rin muna. And then just add those three as one for you to be able to get the total resistance. Okay? So let's answer this example to make this one clear. So the following information is given in connection with the series parallel circuit of figure 3.4a, which is this one. So E, or the voltage source, is equal to 48 volts. R1 is 6 ohms. R2 is 12 ohms. And then R4 is 15, R3 muna. R3 is 3 ohms. R4 is 15 ohms. R5 is 90 ohms, and then R6 is 30 ohms. So lahat naman is given. So here are the questions. Calculate the total equivalent resistance of the entire circuit. So all we need to do is add those resistance. Okay? Pero of course, since na meron tayong parallel, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-add lang kaagad-agad. Okay? So we have to apply a specific formula for this one, and for this one. So for R3, walang problema. You can add it as it is. But in here, we have to do some computation, the same with this one. Okay? So that's it for the letter A. And then for the letter B, the total current. So we have to get the total resistance first before we can get the total current. So again, if it's asking us to get the total current, then we should have the total voltage and then the total resistance for us to be able to solve the total current. Okay? And then letter C, the voltage drop across each section. Okay? What is the voltage drop in R1, voltage drop in R2? Sorry. Mali pala. Section. Okay, kapag sinabi nating section, so in here we have 3 sections only. So this is one section, another section, and then another section. Okay? So kapag sinabi dito, the voltage a voltage drop across each resistance, then that's the time that we have to get the individual, okay, voltage drop of those resistances. So you'll have an answer of 6 voltage drop. While if you say section, you're only going to have 3 answers. Okay? So 3 sections. Anyway, so here is the formula for the letter A. So we have this R equivalent is equal to R1 times R2 divided by R1 plus R2 plus R3 plus 1 divided by 1 R4 plus 1 R5 plus 1 R6. Now, how did we have those equations? So let's start from the very basic. Okay, so let me just copy this one. Okay, so if this one is in series, let's say R1, R3, and then R4 only, so you can add them as simple as R1 plus R2 plus R3. If this one is in series, okay? However, in here we have a parallel connection. So that is the one that we will not use. So we have to consider this section first. Oops, yeah, this section, okay, as a one unit. So let's say R1 is in parallel with R2, wherein R1 times R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Okay? So to make it simple, we have this formula. Okay, ito yung pinaka-formula talaga natin kapag two resistance. Okay? Two resistance in parallel with each other. Alright? Kapag dalawa lang yan, you can use this formula. R1 times R2 divided by R1 plus R2. However, if you have three resistance, okay, in parallel, so in parallel, okay, so gagamit na kayo mismo na itong formula na to. Let's say 1 divided by 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. Okay, so ito yung pinaka-formula nyo kapag tatlo and above. Okay, 3 resistance and above. So kapag apat, so ganun pa rin, magdagdag lang kayo dito. Plus 1 over R4. Okay, that. Plus 1 over Rn. Okay. So ito, applicable lang to kapag dalawa lang. Okay. R1 times R2 divided by R1 plus R2. So kapag ito, kapag marami, R1 is parallel with R2, in parallel with R3, in parallel with R4, etc. etc. Alright? So I hope we are clear with this one. So, nag-gets so far? Actually, ito yung pinaka-formation ng mga formulas natin eh. Kapag dalawa lang and then kapag tatlo and above. So that is why ito yung pinaka-perfect example to show to you guys on how to solve a parallel circuit. And then the other one is just a series connection. Okay? So, clear tayo so far? Kapag dalawang resistance, ito. Kapag tatlo and above, ito naman, sa baba. Clear or no?
Clear po.
Sure? Okay. So anyway, wala kang magiging problema dito as long as you know those two formulas. So if 2 resistance, use this formula. If it's 3 resistance and above, use this formula. All right. So from here, if you're going to apply this one as let's say 1 unit to, diba? And then another unit din to. Okay. So you can transform this circuit into something like this. So positive, negative. into something like this. Parang series connection na lang siya. So, ito, yung computation nyo ng R1 in parallel with R2. And this one is just R3. And then the other one is R4 in parallel with R5 in parallel with R6. Okay? So, for you to be able to get the R total, okay, R total is equal to R1 in parallel with R2 plus R3, which is this one, plus R4 in parallel with R5 in parallel with R6. Oops, ano yun? R6. Tama pala. Yan. Zoom. Anyway, hindi ko na kasi precisely zoom. Ito pala. Ayun naman. Anyway, ito yung pinaka-formula nyo for the total resistance. Okay? If you have this kind of circuit. Right? So, this one is considered as 1 unit. So, pwede nyo na itong isolve as it is. And then, ilagay nyo lang mismo yung value dito. So, R3 as it is. And then, for R4, R5, and R6, so solve nyo to as 1 unit. Okay? And then, substitute it in here. So, parang nagkaroon din kayo ng series connection or simplified series circuit kapag na-solve nyo na yung mga parallel connections sa circuit na to. Okay? So, that is why we have this one. Okay? So, ito yung pinaka-first unit, second unit, and then third unit. Okay? So, just do the math. Okay? Or, kung meron na kayo na itong formula nyo to, i-substitute nyo na lang yung mga given values or yung mga equivalent values nila. So, 6 times 12 divided by 6 plus 12 is equal to 4. Okay? And then R3 is just 3. And then for the R4, R5, and R6, so yun. So, palitan nyo lang yung R4 into 15, R5 into 90, and then R6 into 30. So, if you're going to solve this one, then you will get 9. So, just add those 3, and then you will get 16 ohms. Okay. So, are we clear so far on how did we get the total resistance or R equivalent?
Yes,
Clear
sir.
po.
Okay. So, gamitin nyo yung calculator nyo to verify whether this one is really 9 ohms and then whether this one is really, 4 ohms. Itong section na to. So, the next one is the total current. So, again, you need to have the total resistance and then the total voltage for it to be able to get the total current. Wherein, meron naman na tayo ng total voltage, which is 48 volts. So, ito na yon. And we also have the total resistance. So, ito, kapag mali na mismo yung sagot nyo sa R equivalent, so mali na rin of course yung total current nyo kasi madadamay na rin to. So, make sure na tama yung computation nyo sa total resistance bago nyo isolve yung total current. So, 48 divided by 16 is equal to 3 amps. Okay? So, ganun lang naman kadali sa total current as long as meron na kayo ng total voltage and then total resistance. Okay? And then for the letter C, the voltage drop across each section. So, ito, meron tayong isa, dalawa, and then tatlong section. So, in here, we have to combine the, total resistance of this one for us to be able to get, the total voltage drop of this section. Okay? Kasi kapag tigi-isa lang, then magkaiba na yon. Okay? Iba na yung magiging sagot nyo. Or, pwede nyo namang kunin yung tigi-isa muna if you want. And then just add those two to have that one section. Okay? So, parang ganun din lang. Anyway, so in here, we have the formula for the voltage drop wherein E is equal to I times R. Okay? So, since section lang yung kinukuha natin, So we have to get the resistance of that specific section only, okay, or the summation of that specific section resistance. Like, for example, in here, R1 is equal to 6 ohms, and then R2 is equal to 12 ohms. So, kung sakali, okay, kung sakaling series connection to, so i-add nyo lang siya, R1 plus R2, okay, or 6 plus 12. But since this one is in parallel connection, so ang gagamitin nyo mismo is yung R1 in parallel with R2, okay? Or yung R1 times R2 divided by R1 plus R2, okay? So in here, R1 is 6 and then R2 is 12. So R1 is 6 plus, and then R2 is 12, so 6 plus 12. So solve nyo lang to, 6 times 12 is 132. Sana yung calculator? Tama ba? 6 times 12. Oh, paano naging 132 yan? 72 lang pala. Okay, may bad. So 72 divided by 6 plus 12 is equal to 18. Okay, so 72 divided by 18. So R1 in parallel with R2 is equal to 4 ohms. So ito yung equivalent resistance ng section na ito. Okay? And then going back with our formula, so we have E is equal to I times R. So R is already given, and I, dito kasi pag pinag-combine nyo na siya, oops, nawala na pala yung isa kong example kanina. Ayaw ma-stretch. Ayaw. Anyway, so again, ito kapag pinag-combine nyo na siya, pwede na siya maging parang series connection na lang. Okay? So, positive, negative. Okay. So, para magiging ganito na lang siya kapag nasolve nyo na yung total resistance ng each section. Wherein, yung I natin dito is magiging parang series connection na lang. Wherein, kung ano yung current na dumadaloy dito, same na rin dito, and then same na rin dito. Okay? Kasi pinag-combine na natin yung section na to sa kanyang section na to. Okay? So, that is why whatever is our total current is now the same all throughout our circuit. Okay? So, E is equal to, kung ano man yung current na na-solve natin, is 3 amps times the equivalent resistance of this one for this specific section, which is 4, 3 times 4. So, 3 times 4 is 12 volts. So, this is the voltage drop across this R1 and R2. Okay? And then for the R3, so wala naman na tayong problema dito kung ano man yung value ng resistance na yan. So R3 is equal to 3 ohms. So in here, just multiply this one by I. Okay? So 3 times 3 is equal to 9 volts. Kaya pala, nasa snipping tool tayo. Okay? So, ganun. So, ito yung pangalawa, which is yung as second section. So, 3 times 3 is equal to 9 volts. Okay? And then for the last one, so ano man yung computed value nito, which is 9 ohms. Okay? So, ito mismo yun. Try nyo na lang i-verify sa calculator nyo. Makukuha natin dito is 9 ohms. So, just multiply this one by I, okay, or the total current, which is 3 amps. So, 9 times 3 is equal to 27 volts. Okay? So were you guys able to follow on how did we get the voltage drop across each section? So any question kung saan kayo nalilito? Hello guys, I need your feedback kung kamusta? Kung naintindihan nyo ba tong letter C or hindi?
Naintindihan naman po. Gets.
Sure? Okay, sige. So ganito na lang para mas clear tayo. So let's change this one into individual resistance. So mas madali na naman siya. Okay. Kasi all you need to do is just get the individual resistance. Same lang din yung process. Okay, E is equal to I times R. So yung I natin is 3 and then yung R1 natin is 6 ohms. Okay. So in here we have, oops, may bad. Okay, dito pala dapat nyo munang kunin yung individual currents. Okay. So mas mahaba pala to. Okay, nakalimutan kong sabihin sa inyo na kapag nandito na pala, magi-split pala yung current. Okay? So hindi nyo basta-basta pwedeng gamitin yung formula na to wherein you have the total current and then individual resistance lang. Kasi dito, magi-split na mismo yung current natin. Oops. Okay, so magkakaroon tayo ng current dito and then another current in here. So in that case, you have to get the I1 is equal to V1 divided by R1. Okay, para makuha nyo. So mas matrabaho nga lang to kapag gusto nyong kunin yung voltage drop mismo nung isang circuit. So dito, yung I1 natin, say this is your I1 and then this is your I2, wherein I total is equal to I1 plus I2 of course. So dapat mag-a-arrive tayo sa 3 amps kasi ito yung nasolve nating current nung sinosolve natin yung total current kanina. Okay? So in here we have a V1 of 48 volts divided by, so ito pala, para hindi kayo malito, since nasa parallel connection tayo, so na-mention ko to last meeting, V1 is equal to VT, okay? Or equal din to sa V2. Okay? So applicable lang to kapag parallel connection. Okay? Pero kapag nasa series, so syempre, bawat connection, palit ng palit yan. So in here we have a 48 volts and then for the R1 we have 6 ohms. So 48 divided by 6, you'll get here, oops, bakit 8 amps? Laki. Okay, what am I missing? So V1, may bad. Okay, so yung computation pala dito, okay, V total, kapag naging series connection na siya, V1 plus V2 plus V3. Ganun dapat, which is equal to 48 volts. So in here, if you're going to divide this 1 by 3 section, kailangan muna natin kunin yung section na to, okay, which is, eto na siya, eto 12 volts, and then 9 volts, and then 27 volts. A total of 48 volts. So hindi pala 48 volts yung gagamitin natin. May bad. Okay? So kapag i-compute nyo na to, kapag isang parallel connection lang, okay, let's say this is your voltage source para malinaw na lang. Kapag isang parallel connection lang, okay, so ito na yung part na V total is equal to V1 and then V2. Okay? Kapag isang connection lang siya ng parallel. Pero kapag meron ng kasamang, let's say another voltage in here, resistance pala, okay, which is let's say magiging V3 na dito, okay, so ibang usapan na naman yan. So, eto, kapag kinombine mo to, is magiging series connection and then another series right here. And then kapag kinombine mo rin to magiging series. So that is why ganito yung magiging labas. V1 plus V2 plus V3. Okay? Which will become equal to 48 volts. Okay? Which is, ito na yung mga individual voltages natin. 12 volts, 9 volts, and then 27 volts. So in here, instead of 48 volts, we have 12 volts. Okay? So 12 divided by 6 is equal to 2 amps. Okay? And then for the R2, so tanggalin ko lang to para magkasunod. For the I2, we have here V2 divided by R1. So the value of V2 is 9 volts. Ito pa rin pala, 12 volts. And R2 is 12 volts. So 12 for the V2. And then R2 na to. R2 is equal to 12 volts. 12 ohms. So 12 divided by 12 is equal to 1 ampere. So there you go. IT is equal to I1 plus I2. So IT is 3 amps. And then I1 is 2 amps. And then I2 is also, not also, 1 amp. Okay, which is now also equal to 3 amps. Okay, so from there you can now get the individual voltage drop. So in here, kapag kukunin natin mismo yung VR1 or yung voltage drop across R1, okay, so we have here I1 times R1, okay, wherein I1 is 2 amps times R1 is 6. So you will get 12 volts. Okay, that's the voltage drop across R1. And then for the VR2, so ganun din, palitan lang natin yung current saka yung resistance. So we have 1 amps times R2 is 12 ohms. So VR2 is equal to 12 volts. Okay. So, yeah. Yan yung mga individual voltage drop across R1 and R2. So, ganun din. For the R3, of course, yung current dito mismo, okay, is already total current. So, gagamit na tayo ng 3 amps times 3 ohms. Wherein we have a voltage drop of 9 volts in here. And then, ganun din sa VR4, R5, and R6. So, gagamit tayo ng 27 volts para makuha yung individual currents. Okay? Kagaya ng ginawa natin sa I1 and I2. Pero ito magiging I4, I5, and I6. And then, yun yung mga gagamitin nyo para makuha yung mga individual voltage drop across R4, R5, and R6. Okay? So, ganoon naman sa pagkuha ng mga individual resistances. Okay? So, yeah. Are we clear so far on how to get individual voltage drops?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so mas matrabaho lang siya kasi kailangan yung kunin yung I1 and then yung mga V1 nila bago nyo makuha, saka yung R1 then of course, bago nyo makuha mismo yung pinaka-individual talaga. Okay, so laging ganun yung logic natin. Kapag V total, syempre I total, saka R total din. Pero kapag si V1 lang, kailangan mo yung I1 mismo, yung current ng I1, and then yung resistance ng R1. Okay. So, laging ganun. V total is equal to total, and individual is equal to individual also. Alright? Anyway, that's it for the letter C. And then for the letter D, the current through each resistor. So, madali na lang to. Actually, nagawa na natin siya kanina. So, kunin nyo lang mismo yung individual voltage, okay, mismo ng section na yon. Okay, which is we have 12 volts for this section, and then we have 9 volts, 9 volts for this section, and then 27 volts for this section. Okay. So, dito meron tayong 12 divided by 6 for the R1, and then 12 divided by 12 for the R2, and then 9 divided by 3 for the I3, and then 27 divided by 15 is for the R4, and then 27 divided by 90 is for the R5, and then 27 divided by 30 is equal to R6. Okay? So, ito yung hindi natin na-solve kanina. So, hindi ko na napakita kasi medyo mahaba. Pero ganun yung pattern. Ito yung na-solve natin kanina. Okay? 2 amps and then the 1 amp. Okay, and then of course, 3 amps for the this section. And for the last one, so the total power taken by the entire circuit. So in here, given naman na yung total voltage, given na rin yung total current, so all you need to do is, just substitute the equivalent values. So 48 times 3 will give you 144 watts. So that's the total power. All right. So, were you guys able to follow for the letter D and E?
Yes, sir.
How about the others? Mr. Tanikala? Mr. Ramos?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kabuwag? Mr. Aral?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rojas? Mr. Alabsan?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tombok? Spaklaw na? Mr. Benser? Miss Giselle? Miss Mina? Miss Ubasa? Mr.
Yes,
Francisco?
Yes, sir. Okay lang.
Yes, sir.
Mr. CJ? Mr. Mendoza? Mr. John David? Miss Ventura? Mr.
Yes,
CJ?
sir.
Okay, so hindi ko pa natawag. Okay? So, parang ito yung magiging pinaka-foundation nyo. Okay? So, aralin nyo na lang siya muna by section kung nalilito kayo. Ito muna. And then, ito muna. And then, bago nyo siya i-add, bago maging isang circuit. Okay? So, dito, section yung pinakita. Susunod, pakita naman natin yung mga individual resistances for our next examples later on. Anyway, so, ito yung magiging parang seat work nyo. Okay, exercise number 1. So, same naman lahat. Okay, magkaiba lang ng parang representation ng circuit. So, same question. So, we're getting the total equivalent resistance, the total current, the voltage drop each section. So, etong section na to, and then another section, and then another section. So, we have a total of 3 sections. Okay? And the current through each resistor, and then the total power taken by the entire circuit. So everything is the same aside from the values of your resistance, the value of your, I think same lang sa total voltage for T10. I think parehas nga rin yata sa mga total mga values ng resistance. Anyway, just a different connection, okay, or circuit. Alright, so yan yung magiging seat rate nyo. So kung may question kayo dito in the future, so just let me know. So,
Today, sir?
Ano yan?
Yung exercise po, sir. Ngayon po ba, sir?
Ngayon? Hindi. Ang deadline neto, hindi ko pa nga lang napapublish. So the deadline of that one is on May. So i-adjust ko na lang to kasi kakabigay ko lang naman ngayon. Okay. So I'll move the deadline into May 17. Okay. So the same with the example number 8. Na-delay na kasi tayo ng 4 days, I guess. Kaya ito yung supposedly dapat last meeting pa natin na umpisan to pero kinulang nga tayo sa oras kasi nga hindi tayo nakapag-meet yung pinaka first day of class. So yeah, I'll just move this one into May 17. Okay, example number 8 and then exercise number 1. Okay, so the same with your quiz, of course. Kapag natapos na natin to, which is patapos naman na tayo, bibigay ko na rin yung quiz nyo for the module 1 and 2. Okay, so are we clear so far regarding with your exercise number 1?
Clear po.
Clear, sir.
Okay, so here are the sources of supply in series or parallel. So noted that pwede tayo magdagdag ng let's say a connection of or a series connection of battery wherein yung 3 volts mo is magiging 9 volt, I mean 6 volts pag 3 plus 3. Kapag gusto mo ng 9 volts, pwede namang maging 3 plus 3 plus 3. Pero no, ang kailangan nyo lang tandaan doon, okay, the more batteries that you're adding, of course, mas nagiging inconsistent na siya. Okay, kasi yung 3 volts na yon, meron din siyang resistance. Let's say yung 3 volts magiging 2.95 lang or 2.90. So kapag pinag-add nyo yun, hindi talaga siya eksaktong 9 volts. Sometimes 8 point something lang. Okay. So yan yung cases sa mga batteries kasi meron silang own resistance. Okay? Iba naman na kapag talagang yung mismong sa outlet natin. Okay? Kasi sa outlet natin, so hindi ko na na-monitor yung time. Akala ko meron pa tayong more or less 5 minutes. Anyway, so going back with our discussion. So ulitin ko lang. So of course, you can add, multiple voltage source or batteries to be exact. Kasi yun lang naman yung mga pwede nating idagdag eh. Batteries and generators are, can be added with each other. Pero kapag yung sa outlet natin, of course, mismong sa source, sila na mismo yung parang pwedeng mag-manipulate. So, by default, meron tayong 220 volts. Pero meron naman iba, pwede nilang baguhin into 110 volts. Or depende, pwede siguro nilang palitan into 150 volts. But mostly, 110 or 220. But when it comes to batteries, so hindi na natin siya pwedeng palitan kasi kung ano man yung nailagay sa battery na yan, let's say 3 volts, okay, or 6 volts, ganyan na siya mismo. Oops, sorry. Wait lang. May tumatawag. Yes, hello? Good morning po. Alright. So, guys, saglit lang may kukunin lang ako sa taas. May pinapadala kasi. 2 minutes. Okay? Umihi muna kayo or magkape muna kayo. Saglit lang to. Alright. So, nandiyan pa ba kayo?
Yes,
Opo,
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, dito kagaya ng sabi ko kanina, kapag mismo sa source, pwede nilang palitan kahit na ano yung desired voltage na ilalabas sa outlet natin. However, in batteries, kung ano yung nagawa, yun na yun mismo. And then, kapag batteries kasi, may mga internal resistance tayong tinatawag. Okay? So, yung mga internal resistance na to, sobrang liit lang naman. Actually, wala pang 1 ohms. Mostly, mga 0.03, 0.05. So, sobrang liit lang. Wherein yung 3 volts, actually, mababawasan pa yan. Minsan, 2.99, okay, 2.98, okay, etc. etc. So, kapag isa lang, parang okay lang kasi sobrang close. However, kapag, let's say, 3 or 4 na batteries na yan, so you are expecting to have 3, 6, 9, 12 volts in total. Pero since meron nga silang internal resistances, so minsan magiging 11.5 na lang to. Okay, may mga ganung cases. So, kapag isa lang, okay lang. Pero kapag madami, mas marami, actually mas marami pang pagdadaan na resistances, mas liliit mismo yung voltage na equivalent mismo nung submitted na sources na yun. Alright? And ito pala yung rules ng connections natin for the series. So for the current, of course, kung ano man yung dumadaloy na total current natin, yun na rin yung mga dumadaloy na current natin for individual resistances. Okay, kagaya ng nasabi ko kanina, kapag ito, okay, naging series na, and then kapag ito naging series connection na rin, wherein iis na lang yan. So, I total is equal to I1, I2, and then I3. Okay? So, ganun sa series connection. And then for the resistance, of course, i-add nyo lang lahat. Okay? R1 plus R2 plus R3. You will get the R total. And for the parallel, so ito naman yung sinasabi ko kanina, for the voltage, E total is equal to E1 is equal to E2 if it's a pure parallel connection. Okay? Like, for example, we have, let's say, E1, okay, or E total, positive, negative. And then we have the resistance right here, another resistance. Oops. Another resistance. Okay, kahit ilan pa yan, okay, lahat yan, same lang yung voltage na dumadaloy. Okay, kung let's say 200 volts to, so yung E1 nyo dito is equal to 200 volts na rin. Yung E2 nyo dito is equal to 200 volts na rin. Okay? Pero, ibang bagay na yung, let's say, meron ka pang resistance dito. Okay? So, kapag dumaloy siya dito, yes, 200 volts pa rin. 100 volts, 200 volts. Pero, kailangan nyo nang i-consider mismo ito. Okay? So, kailangan nyo munang i-deduct ito dito sa parallel connection nyo. Kagaya ng nangyari sa example natin kanina. Okay? So, for the parallel connection ng section nito, R1 and R2, 12 volts siya. And sa pangalawa is 9 volts. And then sa pangatlo is 27 volts. So, 12 volts sa R1 and R2, 9 volts dito. 27 volts naman sa R4, R5, and R6. Okay? Then a total of 48 volts. Okay, so ganun sa parallel connection. Alright? And then for the resistance, so ito yung formula na ginagamit natin kapag more than 2. Okay? Pag 3 and above. And then ito naman yung gagamitin natin kapag 2 resistance lang. R1 times R2 divided by R1 plus R2. Okay? And then for the current, so ito na yung kailangan nyo namang i-add. Actually, parang ito yung kabaliktaran mismo nito. Okay? Resistance and then yung current. So dito kailangan nyo siyang i-add. Okay? Kasi kung ano yung current na dumadaloy dito, okay, this is considered as I1. And then this is considered as I2. And then this is considered as I3. Okay? And this is our I total. So, I total is equal to, so syempre magi-split kasi yung current natin dito. So, yung iba pupunta sa I1, yung iba naman pupunta sa I2. So, dito magi-split ulit siya. Yung ibang mapupunta sa I2, yung iba mapupunta sa I3. And dito, syempre, kung meron pang resistance dito, magi-split ulit siya. Hanggang sa babalik na siya dito. Okay. Which is now again equal to I total. Alright? So kung ilang section man yon or ilang nodes, ganun din kadami yung individual currents natin. Okay? I1 plus I2 plus I3 and so on and so forth. Okay? So basically, ito yung mga kailangan yung tandaan, okay, when it comes to series rules connection and then parallel rules connection. So para hindi kayo malito, mas maganda sigurong i-screenshot nyo na to, itong dalawang to, and then yan na yung para magiging basis nyo as your notes, your main notes for the, mga following pang examples, okay, or following topics. Kasi ito yung para magiging foundation nyo, okay, in every circuit that you're going to solve. Alright, so hanggang doon lang naman for the series parallel or parallel series connection. So kapag gusto nyo pa ng more examples, okay, so pwede nyo sagutan to, okay, as your practice, or pwede kayong pumunta sa mga website mismo na, let's say, all about circuits, ano pa ba? Actually, maraming website dyan, okay? So, hindi ko lang na-include dito. Pero, napakaraming website dyan wherein we can have more examples. Like, for example, yung mga videos na in-upload ko dito. So, itong mga to, itong letter B and C. So, isang 30-minute video to, I guess. So, wait lang. Matakaw sila sa ads.
Grammarly can help you write quickly and confidently, so you never have to slow down.
But the free version checks basic spelling and grammar. Grammarly Premium, on the other hand, provides
in this video.
Okay. So, dito is itong 18-minute video. So, nag-umpisa naman siya sa pinaka, simple and then magiging medyo complicated. Actually, sobrang simple pa nga nito lahat. Okay. Ayan. 18 minutes video to. And then, meron din yung isa which is 13-minute video. Also talks about Ohm's law. So, series connection to. Meron ding parallel. Wherein yung sinasabi ko kanina. Okay, wherein you can apply our formula right here.
It's gonna be 12
Okay.
divided by
Ito.
6, following the same pattern. And so that's current.
Okay. So, meron pang mas mahaba dyan. Yung iba, ito, 2 hours. Kung talagang bitin na bitin, in understanding the series connection and then parallel connection. So, you can visit this 2-hour video. Okay. So, another ads. Kaya napapakitin since may ads ulit. So, yeah. That's it for the module 2. So, any questions so far?
None, sir.
So, saang part kayo nahirapan so far? May I know your feedbacks? Anyone? Sa kilowatt hour lang, sir. Alright. Okay, so alamin natin yung derivation nun kung bakit ganun. Okay. Actually, parang similar siya sa... Wait lang I think parang ganun siya. So, sa 1 minute, okay, meron tayong 60 seconds. 1 hour is equal to 3,600 seconds. Alright, so parang dito talaga, parang similar talaga siya dito eh. Pero hindi ko lang malaman kung paano yung tamang process ng derivation ng into 1 kilowatt hour is equal to P times hour divided by 1,000. Okay, so anyway, alamin natin yung derivation nito kung bakit siya naging ganun. So, kilowatt hour. So, yeah, hanggang dito na lang muna. And I will now publish your example number 8, exercise number 1, and then quiz for the series and parallel circuit. So, change ko na lang yung deadlines nila into May 17. So, I'll give you guys exactly 1 week in those 3 activities. Alright, sige. Hanggang doon na lang muna. And again, do not forget to answer the discussion also. Okay? So actually, ngayon na yung deadline neto. So sa mga hindi pa nakasagot, please answer this one now. Hanggang 11:59 PM na lang to. Okay, so that's it for the week 1. And the next meeting will discuss week 2. Okay. So we have 3 modules for this one: Kirchhoff's law, Maxwell, and then superposition theorem. All right, so any other question? Question, guys? Or clarification?
None, sir.
None.
Okay, sige. Kung wala na, then you guys may now go. So if you guys have a question in the future, so you can message me anytime. Okay? So goodbye and see you guys next meeting.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Sir.
Bye,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
See you then.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Goodbye.